Dawn broke gently over the ancient Jurassic landscape, spreading soft gold across the tall conifer trees. The forest slowly awakened as tiny insects stirred from their nighttime resting places, and the faint calls of early birds echoed through the towering branches. The ground was still cool from the night, covered in a delicate layer of dew that sparkled like tiny stars whenever sunlight touched it. Through this calm and misty world walked the Piatnitzkysaurus, steady, unhurried, and fully at home in its ancient surroundings. Each footstep pressed lightly into the soft forest floor, leaving a brief impression before ferns lifted back into shape. Its earthy-colored skin blended perfectly with the patterns of bark and shadow, making the dinosaur almost a part of the forest itself. As it walked, it moved its head slowly from side to side, sensing the gentle breeze drifting across the land. The air carried the scent of pine resin, damp leaves, and fresh water coming from a distant stream. The dinosaur paused near a fallen log covered in moss. It lowered its head to sniff the wood, noticing tiny beetles crawling along the surface. A small flutter of wings broke the silence as a bird burst from a bush, sending leaves falling softly to the ground. The forest canopy above filtered the sunlight into thin beams that danced when branches swayed. Dust particles floated in the air, glowing like drifting sparks in the morning light. The Piatnitzkysaurus stepped forward into one of these beams, its skin catching the soft gold shine. For a moment, the entire forest seemed peaceful and timeless, an untouched world continuing its cycle day after day. As the morning slowly shifted toward midday, the forest began to glow under brighter sunlight. Beams of golden light pierced through the tall conifer branches, creating shimmering patterns on the ground. The Piatnitzkysaurus continued walking calmly until the sound of flowing water reached its ears, a soft, refreshing sound that echoed gently through the trees. Following the sound, it made its way toward a small forest stream winding peacefully through the undergrowth. The stream looked like a ribbon of glass moving over smooth stones. Sunlight reflected off its surface, scattering tiny sparkles across the surrounding plants. The closer the dinosaur came, the more vibrant the world around it appeared. The Piatnitzkysaurus approached the water's edge with slow and steady steps. It lowered its head and gently drank from the cool, clear stream. Ripples formed around its snout, spreading outward in soft circles. The water carried the faint scent of minerals and moss, adding to the freshness of the moment. Around the stream, life moved gracefully. Dragonflies hovered above the water, their wings shimmering like tiny pieces of iridescent glass. Occasionally, one would dip close to the surface before darting back into the air. Small, prehistoric birds perched on low branches, watching the stream with curious eyes. Their calls blended with the sound of running water, forming a peaceful, natural soundtrack. Nearby, small, herbivorous dinosaurs grazed calmly on soft plants growing along the opposite bank. They noticed the Piatnitzkysaurus but didn't seem alarmed. The predator showed no interest in disturbing them. Instead, it remained focused on the coolness of the stream and the tranquility of its surroundings. This peaceful coexistence created a calm harmony in the forest, each creature respecting the space and presence of the others. Dense ferns rustled as a warm afternoon breeze swept across the sprawling valley. Moisture clung to every leaf, turning the air thick and heavy. The Piatnitzkysaurus stepped quietly through the vegetation, its eyes narrowed in concentration. This valley was normally peaceful, rich with plants, small mammals, and the soft hum of insects. But today, something in the atmosphere felt charged, almost electric. Dark clouds gathered above the mountains that bordered the valley. Their edges glowed faintly as they rolled inward, forming a spiraling mass that dimmed the sunlight. Birds took flight all at once, rising from the treetops in frantic swarms. The sudden silence that followed sent a chill down the predator's spine. Storms were common, but not storms that choked the sky so quickly. The dinosaur paused beside a fallen tree, sniffing the air. Beneath the smell of rain was another scent: anxious prey. A small herd of Dryosaurus huddled near a patch of cycads, their bodies tense, their eyes darting. They weren't reacting to the predator. They were reacting to the sky. A crack of thunder split the valley in two. The sound rolled through the forest like a giant drumbeat. The trees shook, and ferns flattened under the shockwave. The herd bolted instantly, scattering in every direction. Piatnitzkysaurus growled low, startled but composed, and continued forward. Rain started pouring in heavy sheets, turning the soft soil into mud within seconds. Lightning flashed again, closer this time, too close. For a moment, the entire valley lit up like daylight, revealing the shapes living within it. The predator caught a glimpse of the land in that brilliant white instant. Tall ferns bending under the storm, trees swaying violently, water rippling across the ground, and faint footprints leading deeper into the valley. Footprints of a large herbivore, possibly wounded. Night had begun to settle over the rugged Patagonian cliffs, casting long blades of shadow that sliced through the rocky landscape. The wind howled between the narrow ravines like a mournful warning, carrying the smell of wet stone and dust. Piatnitzkysaurus moved slowly, its silhouette merging with the jagged horizon. Every step it took sent tiny cascades of pebbles tumbling down the cliff edges, echoing through the valley like distant thunder. The predator had been tracking the injured juvenile sauropod since sunset. Drops of blood glistened faintly on the rocks, forming a trail that led upward along a steep, twisting path. But the higher the dinosaur climbed, the more uneasy it felt. Something was wrong. Something was off about the way sound behaved here. When Piatnitzkysaurus growled, the noise didn't bounce back like normal. Instead, the echo returned, delayed, distorted, as if some unseen shape on the cliffs was growling back with a slightly different tone. The animal paused, nostrils flaring at the cold air. It sniffed again. There was no scent except stone, dust, and faint prey musk. No predator, no rival, and yet the presence felt real. The path eventually widened into a broad ledge overlooking a tremendous drop. Below, the land stretched into endless darkness, dotted with scattered flickers of moonlight hitting water pools. The injured sauropod stood near the edge, trembling, too weak to climb further. The predator approached slowly, muscles tight, jaws slightly open. But as it advanced, the ground beneath its feet vibrated, soft at first, then stronger. Not like footsteps, not like tremors, more like rhythmic pulses moving through the cliff's body itself. The valley continued to tremble in soft, fading pulses, but the worst of the disturbance had passed. Rain still poured from the dark clouds above, though now it fell in gentler sheets rather than harsh, wind-driven waves. The lightning grew less frequent, its flashes flickering like the last breaths of a storm that had spent its fury. Slowly, the world began returning to its natural rhythm. Piatnitzkysaurus stood tall and alert, its body glistening with rainwater. Mud clung to its legs, but its breathing was steady and controlled. The crack in the earth still hissed faintly, releasing warm vapors that rose into the cooling air, but the glow from earlier was gone. Whatever ancient pulse had stirred beneath the valley had retreated once more into silence. The predator watched the steam float upward and disappear into the rain, as though the earth itself were exhaling after a long, tense moment. Nearby, the young sauropod had found a patch of slightly higher ground. Though visibly tired and limping, it had regained some stability. Its massive sides rose and fell with slow, heavy breaths. The creature seemed calmer now, no longer panicking, but simply trying to understand the changing world around it. It lifted its head toward the rain, blinking away droplets as if welcoming the cooling touch of the storm.